It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, brought to you by Loophole, America's optical authority. Check out their scopes, binoculars, and more at loophole.com. By Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. See what's cooking for you at campchef.com. By Wallowa County, nature never looks so good as it does in Northeast Oregon. Plan your trip today at WallawaCountyChamber.com. By Max Lure Company, makers of the Smile Blade and Wedding Ring Spinner. Find out more at maxlure.com. And by Mardon Resort, where the fish bite, but we don't. Book your next hunting, fishing, or camping getaway at mardonresort.com. Now, let's head to the field and find out what's going on this week with your host, Sean Cruz.
It's Memorial Day weekend, that time of year many associate with the start of the camping and boating season, and it's a great excuse to get out there in your truck or SUV to explore the outdoors and go play out there. Whether you're fishing, hiking, biking, climbing, riding, or doing God knows what else. We'll be talking about some of this fun stuff this weekend on the show as we review a couple of products you'll want to have for your Memorial weekend outside. Item number one is the brand new pellet grill and smoker from Camp Chef. Ryan Neely will be joining us to tell us about this Cadillac of a backyard grill you've just got to have. We'll also get a chance to drive a brand new Ram truck that has more bells and whistles than you can shake a stick at, and which gets incredible gas mileage. Scott Brown with Ram Trucks will tell you all about that, and after you hear about what's new with these rigs, you'll probably be tempted like me to head down to your local Dodge dealership and get one. Memorial Day is about a whole lot more than camping and outdoor recreation, though. It's also a time to remember those who have served our country and who gave their lives for it. You may have heard about the 9/11 Museum that opened up this month at the World Trade Center in New York. But before 9/11, there was another national tragedy that captivated our country for generations. That tragedy took place on December 7th, 1941, and propelled us into World War II. It was the Japanese attack on our Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and we went there recently to pay our respects at the USS Arizona Memorial and to talk to Chief Interpretive Ranger Eileen Martinez from the National Park Service. She's going to be telling you all about that fateful day this week on the show and about the World War II valor in the Pacific National Monument you'll find at Pearl Harbor today. In our news and field report section, we've got more wolf news from here in the Northwest, as well as an update on what's going on along the Elwha River on Washington to Lubbock Peninsula after that dam was taken down there. Jason Baker with our affiliate 1470 KELA out of Centralia and Chehalis will be bringing you that story as he interviews Barbara Maines at Olympic National Park. But before we get any further into this very special Memorial Day edition of Northwestern Outdoors, David Sparks has a brand new Sportsman Spotlight for us. This week, David goes into more detail about a story we reported on last week, the recent killing of a protected grizzly bear in eastern Idaho.
Black bear hunters kill a grizzly bear. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Idaho Department of Fish and Game is investigating the killing of an 11-year-old male grizzly bear by black bear hunters. We recently did a story describing the differences between the two species, so this doesn't happen. Fish and Game's Greg Lazinski.
I had done a story with some of your information about identifying differences between black bears and grizzlies, and It was kind of a hunter's beware. When you're out hunting black bears, beware there's a hump in one and not in the other, and so on and so forth. So what's the story here? Was this a hunting mistake or an intentional kill?
That's what's being under investigation right now. The fact that these were legal bear hunters in a legal bear hunting area for black bears. The area is right adjacent to Yellowstone National Park, so of course we have both black bears and grizzly bears in the area. They did report that they had shot a grizzly bear to us, and so that's now where the investigation is at, and from there aren't any facts that can be released right now.
Okay, so at least they fessed up.
And that's important in any situation where there's a grizzly bear or just a mistaken identity on a deer or elk. If you make a mistake, call us up right away. When you try to hide things or bring other people into it, that's when it does turn into a crime. There's mistakes and then there's intention, and in this case, again, the folks did come forward right away to let us know, hey, we were out black bear hunting, we did shoot a grizzly bear, and from there, it's an investigation between Idaho Fish and Game and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
I've enjoyed every person I've ever worked with at Farm Credit. Oregon farmer Skip Gray talks about Northwest Farm Credit Services.
You want to surround yourself with top drawer people, and Farm Credit provides top drawer people. So it's been my privilege to be a local advisor with Farm Credit.
Northwest Farm Credit Services is a cooperative guided by customer advisors. Farmer Chad Neely explains the advantages of such a system.
The board of directors are all agriculture people, whether they're dairymen, cow guys, cow-calf guys, or row crop or dryland farmers. They've all been out there on the front lines, and I have access to those people.
This kind of access is an advantage for producers.
That's a big thing. I mean, there's one of the guys that farms real close to right here, and I can call and talk to him and say, hey, what do you think? Or here's my opinion. So many banks, they don't even let you get close to the people that make the decisions. You don't even know who they are.
Northwest Farm Credit Services. Customer owned, customer driven.
The two-burner camp stove has evolved, and today's line of portable camp stoves from Camp Chef have come a long way from your father's propane stove, featuring matchless ignition, more cooking power, and in some cases a built-in grill or extra burner. And you've got what you need to whip up some great grub in the field. Look for the complete line of Mountain Series stoves at your local sporting goods store or online at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's Memorial Day weekend, and we thought it'd be fun to do a couple of product reviews. The first one we recorded at SHOT Show in Las Vegas, Nevada earlier this year. We're catching up with Ryan Neely from Camp Chef about their brand new pellet grill. And after that, we're going to talk to Scott Brown with Ram Trucks about an incredible new half-ton truck they've got with great gas mileage. We continue to broadcast from the range at SHOT Show in Nevada, and we're talking to our friends at Camp Chef. They've got a brand new pellet grill and smoker coming up. It is big, it's beefy, and it looks really impressive. With us here to tell us more is Ryan Neely with Camp Chef. Tell our listeners about this great pellet grill and smoker.
Well, you're right, John. Not only is the pellet grill and smoker impressive, but the food that you can make is impressive. That's because it is so easy to use.
What kind of things can you cook in here?
Well, we're talking ribs, smoked salmon, briskets, anything that you might want to do in a smoker, but you can also get creative and do things like pizza.
When you look at this, folks, it's basically the size of that backyard barbecue that you've got out on your porch or your deck, but it's a lot fancier than that. Why don't you walk our listeners through this? And I guess we'll start off with, why a pellet grill?
Well, see, pellets, the way that it works is the auger will feed down into this little burner that it will produce the smoke and the heat. And one of the great things about our pellet grill and smoker that makes it super easy for anyone to cook is the digital controls that are built into it.
Let's talk a little bit about the pellets themselves. Now, are these the same pellets you use for like a pellet stove when you heat your home?
They're very similar. It's a very similar concept, but the pellets that we have here at Camp Chef are food-grade pellets, so there's no additives or anything in it. But you'll get flavors such as apple, hickory, alder, the flavors that you want to cook with. And that's just a sawdust that's compacted into a pellet that will go in and burn and create that smoke.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into this. So you've got this area here where you put the pellets, and you've got a lot of room to put a lot of pellets in there, don't you?
Oh, we got a lot of room, and it's enough room to hold a 20-pound bag.
Wow. So what does that translate into? Does that mean I don't have to get up in the middle of the night to go ahead and refill this thing with pellets?
No, sir, and that is what we designed it for, so that you can fill it, you can set it, and forget it.
Speaking of setting it, you've got this nice little dial here, and temperature all the way up to 400 degrees, and you've got a whole bunch of other electronics with this too. Tell our listeners about that.
Well, one of the great features of the electronics here is the dual thermometer probes. So one, you can measure internal meat temperature, but then you can also measure the temperature of the smoke chamber. So that way you can really monitor what's going on and how the food is cooking.
I also see that it has an electronic auto start ignition, which is really nice. The cooking area, folks, again, it's 560 square inches, so plenty of room to cook whatever you want to. And cleanup looks like it's really easy too.
Oh yeah, well, something else, you might have to take all the stuff apart to get down into clean out those burn ashes. But here at Camp Camp Chef, we figured there's no reason to take that apart. So we made a trap door that you simply open, falls into a cup, and then you just take that and dump it. It's really simple.
The Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker, folks. For those of you who, like me, grew up using like a Lewer Jensen smoker, and don't get me wrong, those are great, but this has really evolved from that concept. It's a real game changer, and you can cook so much stuff in here that you could never do with that sort of smoker. All right, so I got to ask, Ryan, the Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker, is this available in stores yet?
Yeah, it is available in our Camp Chef retailers.
Where can people find out where they can get it? I know that Camp Chef covers a whole bunch of stores. Should we direct them to a website and then go to a dealer from there?
Yeah, go to www.campchef.com, log on to our dealer locator and find the one closest to you, and go in and talk to them about the pellet grill and smoker.
It's the Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. Again, revolutionary new way to go ahead and cook food in ways you've never cooked it before. You're going to enjoy what you get out of here. In fact, we've been snacking on some of the jerky they've had here. It is delicious. Try it out yourself. The Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. Go to campchef.com or look at your local sporting goods store for this great product. Ryan, thanks for telling us all about it.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Next on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we catch up with Scott Brown from Ram Trucks. He's got some big news about a truck full of bells and whistles that gets gas mileage you won't believe. Some of you who know me know that I drive an 11-year-old fleet model full-size truck, and I like it. It's a half-ton truck, does the job. I've been real happy, but I'm sitting in the cab of a new truck, and I'll tell you what, I'm thinking it might be time for an upgrade. With us here to tell you more about the Ram truck. It's a 1500 half-ton model eco diesel is Scott Brown. He's the PR manager for Ram Trucks. Scott, this is a thing of beauty, and not only is this one heck of a truck, it's got some incredible gas mileage.
It does. Thanks, John. Good to see you. Yeah, eco diesel new for 2014, 3-liter VM Motori engine, 240 horsepower, 420 pound-feet of torque. This truck, a 4x4, 27 miles per gallon on the highway.
I've never heard of such a feat. 27 miles per gallon on the highway for a 4x4 half-ton truck. This is incredible. Nobody else comes close as far as I know.
Definitely leading the way in the half-ton market. You know, the 8-speed with that 3-liter diesel is just truly a great product.
The gas mileage is a huge factor, but in terms of being an outdoorsman, there's a lot I like about this truck. Number one, it's very roomy. Definitely room for 4 or 5 people in this. You got 4 doors, so it's basically a crew cab. 6-foot bed, are we talking?
6.5-foot bed.
So if you're like me and you want to put a canopy on there, throw a cot in the back, you're good to go. And you know, Ram Trucks, they have a reputation for being really tough, for being able to take a lot of abuse. Are we still there with Ram Trucks?
Oh, absolutely. We absolutely pride ourselves in having, you know, a work truck, having something that is robust, Ram tough. Absolutely.
Well, not only Ram tough, let's talk about something else here. You got a lot of bells and whistles in this truck that are really impressive, and there's a lot of little things I really like. You know, one thing that's a little thing, but it's a huge thing to me, you've got a 110-volt plug-in. So you can like plug in your laptop, you can plug in almost anything you would normally plug in at home. I've never seen that in a truck before.
Yeah, no, our customers want that. They, like you say, they're working. This truck is a toolbox, and so they want that. You got the regular cigarette lighter, whatever you want to call it. You got the 110 plug. We've got an SD card reader. We got an auxiliary jack. We've got USB ports. So yeah, whether it's the electronics and wanting to be able to connect and plug in, this actually is a Wi-Fi hotspot also. So you can pay on a daily rate, a weekly rate, a monthly rate, and turn your truck into a Wi-Fi hotspot, you know, as long as you've got the 3G connection.
Talking about being able to do more with less time. It sounds like you said, this is a great tool, not just for the outdoors, but for an outdoors rider that's on assignment and trying to get things done. This is fantastic. Something else I like too is the control. So updated from what I've seen before. And the gear shifter. There's no gear shifter on this truck.
Yeah. With the 8-speed automatic, electronic, we've been able to free up some space. So the column shift is gone. The dash shift is gone. So we've got a rotary dial on the dash. It allows you to select, but just frees us up. You know, you've got the storage area now. Mammoth amounts of storage area. And the designers like it because it allows them to do something different and put it in a different area. And ergonomically just feels a lot better. I hope you like it.
Oh, I did. Driving it over here. I loved it. And folks, this thing drives very well, but also very quiet. And that was very surprising for me for a diesel truck. I'm used to diesel trucks being loud, and this was anything but loud. It was really quiet.
Yeah, very quiet. A lot of refinements on diesel engines just in the last 5 years to really quiet them down. You know, the demands that they get the better fuel economy, let's make it more livable, more daily, friendly. And so, yeah, very quiet, very livable, very nice.
Let's mention the controls. You're the pilot of this truck, and you want to know what's going on, and I love the fact that it tells you what your gas mileage is. You push another button, it tells you what your tire pressure is. You've got a camera that goes out the back. You've got a sensor that tells you you're getting too close to things in front. I mean, like I said, there are tons of features on this, and we're not even getting into the whole media that you have available on top of that. Folks, you got to check this out. I mean, and it's easy enough to do. Just go to your local Chrysler dealer and ask to look at a Ram truck. It's the Eco Diesel 1500 half-ton. It's brand new for 2014. And again, fantastic gas mileage, a robust, roomy truck with all of the gadgets and bells and whistles you're going to want. Anything else you want to add, Scott?
No, I think that's it. Again, it's a tool for you guys. And one of the electronic things that we have on here is the trailer brake control. So you've got this, and you can adjust that right from inside the cab. It's built in, it's automatic, it's part of the package for the outdoorsman. That backup camera, it helps you back up. You can see you can see where the trailer hitch is, and so you're not wandering. But a lot of the tools on this truck are here to help fishermen, hunters do better jobs and get their job done better. And yeah, it's amazing.
It's an incredible tool, and it looks like it's worth a look and probably worth a buy. Scott, thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
I'm Ward Burton. Think that's fast? That's nothing compared to how fast America is losing its wildlife habitat. Join the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and help us protect millions of acres. Visit elkfoundation.org or call 1-800-CALL-ELK.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us here again, Lance Mers with Max Lure Company. And I understand that Max has got a Dodger that's really making waves for both trout, kokanee, and salmon anglers. Tell me more about it, Lance.
John, it's called our Max Lure Double D Dodgers. It comes in 6 different colors and 2 different sizes, a 4.4 inch and a 7.6 inch. And we're the only Dodger or gang troll in the market where on the back of that Dodger, it gives you holes in the top of that Dodger so you can place that swivel based upon the position of your boat. What it does is it takes it away from the boat and out of that backwash, which could be a good thing sometimes.
So this is really an interesting concept. I know it's catching on with a lot of anglers. And folks, this is something you can use in any lake that you fish here in the Northwest. Standard Dodger, as we all know, goes straight behind the boat. But this almost acts, well, kind of like a side planer almost in terms of how you hook it up in terms of going out left or going out right.
It does. It serves 2 purposes, and it's just that. The Dodger action, and it also is a side planer as well. It gives you that speed up and slow down action like when you're making S-turns in a boat. So a lot of times you'll catch more fish when you're making some sort of a turn. Well, the Double D alleviates that.
So bottom line is you don't have to go ahead and zigzag around the lake. You can go in a straight line, get that same action with the Double D Dodger.
That's exactly right. And it works perfect. It can be trolled at slow speeds. When you're using a lure, you put that smile blade on there. It gives it an extra attraction too. But there's a lot of attraction in the water by the use of these Dodgers.
Well, there you go, folks. A legacy of innovation since 1969. And here it is again at work with the Double D Dodger from Max Lure Company. And that wraps up another Max Minute from Max Lure Company, makers of the patented Smile Blade and Wedding Ring Spinner.
Breathe the fresh mountain air and feel the tranquility in Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Cast your line into the clear waters of our mountain-fed streams and rivers. Find solitude and surround yourself with nature as you fish for rainbow, brook, and bull trout. Or challenge yourself and fish for world-class steelhead in the wild and scenic Wallowa River or kokanee in the deep waters of Wallowa Lake. And when evening comes, spend some time hoisting a local brew and telling the tales of the one that got away. Watch the world wake up in Wallowa County. Your morning begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Looking for the ultimate salmon and halibut fishing experience at a great price? Then make plans to enjoy the real news for the Wild Northern Fish-In, taking place August 23rd through the 26th. You'll be fishing the protected waters around British Columbia's Queen Charlotte Islands during the day and enjoying first-class food and accommodations at night. If you want an incredible saltwater fishing experience you'll never forget, the Wild Northern Fish-In is for you. Find out more at therealnews.com. That's the real REEL news.com for the Wild Northern Fish-In.
Looking for that extra something that will get more salmon or trout into your boat? Then check out the Double D Dodger from Max Lure. The Double D does double duty and helps you catch more fish. The Double D's flash attracts lunkers, and the Dodger's patented stop-start action works wonders to get those fish biting. The Double D does even more by acting as a side planer to get your bait away from the boat where the fish are more likely to be and more apt to strike. The Double D Dodger. It's the Dodger you've got to have from Max Lure.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and for this Memorial Day weekend edition, we're broadcasting from a special place, hallowed ground, you might say, or in this case, hallowed waters. We're broadcasting from Pearl Harbor on Oahu, and you might say it's paradise. It certainly is today as we sit here looking across the waters at the USS Arizona Memorial, but that's just one facet of what's here. There's so much more that's here. With us here to tell us about the World War II valor in the Pacific National Monument is Chief Interpretive Ranger Eileen Martinez. Eileen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for joining me.
I guess anymore, when people think of disasters that happen to America, for the current generation, 9/11 is ingrained and the jets flying into the towers. But for the greatest generation, that moment in the nation's psyche was actually right here, December 7th, 1941, a day of infamy. Why don't you tell our listeners, some of who were not alive when that happened, what happened here that morning?
Well, we sit here on the shores of Pearl Harbor, which essentially was the center of the bullseye for the attack on Oahu. And this was a very calculated, exacting attack on the Pacific Fleet and the military establishments here on Oahu. And it was designed to cripple our military force here in the Pacific. We had 2 waves of planes that came in from the Japanese Navy. Those 2 waves totaled about 350 planes. The first wave was a great surprise, incredible surprise to this quiet, peaceful, tranquil island, of course, fortified with many military bases as well as ships. There were almost 200 ships here in harbor, and on that morning the silence was broken with the sound of planes and the dropping of bombs and torpedoes and the great explosion of the Arizona that ripped the hull in pieces and killed 1,177 men, part of the 2,390 that lost their lives that day.
And the amazing thing is, folks, is how quick this disaster unfolded. The first planes basically dropped their torpedoes and their bombs at 7:55 a.m., and it was 8 in the morning that basically the Arizona explodes and immediately sinks and takes 1,100 plus people with her. What an incredible disaster. So much has been written. How could this happen? I mean, this wasn't like 9/11, I guess, where civilians were being attacked. This was the headquarters of the Pacific Fleet. I mean, this was battleship row. It's not like we didn't have, our Navy here with lots of guns. We didn't have airfields with planes. We even had an early form of radar that I understand picked up some of the incoming Japanese planes at a good hour before they went ahead and bombed here. How could this happen? How could such a surprise like this unfold?
Well, this essentially was the end of the age of the battleship and the beginning of the dawn of the aircraft carrier. America didn't expect this attack from the air. We were a target. We were sitting placidly, looking out to sea, doing long-range patrols, fortifications on the shoreline. We could shoot straight out 20 miles, but did not expect this attack from the air. And that what was so shocking when this calculated attack came and took out 20, sunk or damaged 21 of our vessels, really crippled American air power here on the island, and it was all over by 9:45 a.m.
Absolutely incredible that so much devastation could happen in such a short time, but that's what happened. And of course, that was only, you might say, the first chapter in this book of the war in the Pacific. So many chapters unfolded after that, many of them tragic for American forces in the months ahead. But it was just a few years later, August of 1945, that the surrender was signed on the USS Missouri. And what do you know? We've got the battleship Missouri also right here, just a couple hundred yards away from the USS Arizona Memorial.
We essentially have the bookends of the Pacific War right here in front of us in Pearl Harbor. We have the USS Arizona and the attack on Oahu, which brought America into World War II. And then we have the Missouri, docked right next door where the surrender documents were signed, Tokyo Bay. So you can come to this site and you can learn about the Pacific War, from air power at the Pacific Aviation Museum to the submariners and their battle campaigns at the USS Bowfin, to the Pearl Harbor Visitor Center, which has two museums that talk about basically the events that are led up to World War II, the State of Mind America, State of Mind Japan, the political, economic, and social realities of both countries, helping the visitor to understand how do these two countries come to conflict. And then the second gallery, The Attack, which talks about the events of the day, from the radar to the occupation of Japan, all the way up until 1951 to the signing of the peace treaty in San Francisco. We talk about the history from engagement to peace, and that is something that we always strive to help our visitors understand. It's interesting here at Pearl Harbor because we are 73 years away from December 7th, 1941. People know that this is an important piece of their history, but sometimes they come to us and they don't know why. The National Park Service role here is to help people understand and connect with their own past to this pivotal event in world history. People come from all over the world to visit us and to make this pilgrimage, to pay their respects and to learn.
Be aware, folks, this is a solemn place to visit. The great thing, like you said, is to go ahead and visit those galleries that go ahead and kind of outline exactly the road that we went on beforehand, and then the attack itself. Go watch the movie, which is actually part of what you're going to do when you visit the Arizona Memorial. Watch the movie. It's a great little primer for exactly what happened. So you see the movie, folks, and then you're actually going to get on board a boat. And you and probably about 100 of your closest friends are going to go on this boat, and you're going to get shuttled over to the actual memorial. And once you're at the memorial, you'll get out there, and it's just so up close and personal. Number one, you get to see the sunken battleship. Number two, you still see the oil rising 73 years later. You'll actually smell the oil, and you understand that there's 1,100 souls that are buried there. And not only that, it was very touching to me. When I went inside, you see all the names of those that died that day, but you also see the names of those that died afterwards, that were on the Arizona on December 7th and choose to have their earthly remains interred with their shipmates forever.
Absolutely. That is probably one of the most poignant ceremonies that I myself have been involved in. And we have a full military funeral with them, with the Navy or the Marines. And there's the flag folding, there's the 21 gun salute, and the divers place the urn within gun turret 4. And you can see those names listed there on the wall. Today we have just 7 Arizona survivors with us, and they come just about every year to the December 7th ceremony. The oldest is 100 years old. The youngest, actually his name is Lou Contour, a personal friend. He's 89, just about 90 at this point. The oldest being 100, just over 100. 7 are left, and having spoken with them, most of those do want to be interred. I think probably one of the most meaningful interments that I attended was Charles Guerin, and when he died, he did not have family alive. So the funeral home contacted the National Park Service and told us that this Arizona survivor would like to be interred within the ship. Those were his final wishes. And so we set up the funeral, and we were his family. We had as much of the National Park Service staff, Navy staff come out, and we served as his family and in remembering him, and his name can also be seen on the wall.
incredible story. Again, folks, it's the USS Arizona Memorial, and we thought it would be so fitting to bring you the story of this place on Memorial Day weekend. We're out of time. We're going to talk again for just a couple of minutes about some of the other things you can see when you visit here in Pearl Harbor in a moment. But before we go, let's give people a website to find out more about planning a visit to not only the USS Arizona, but also to the World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument.
Thank you. That is NPS, as in National Park Service.gov/VALR.
That's nps.gov/VALR, nps.gov/VALR for the World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument and the USS Arizona Memorial. Eileen, thanks for telling us about it. We're going to talk more in just a few minutes about some of the other things you can see here.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and it's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. Blythe Bay is the brand new addition to Mardon Resort there, and it's now open. This edition features RV sites for big RVs and trailers, as well as 4 camper cabins for those of you who want to get away outdoors but don't really want to rough it that much. Find out more about the new RV sites and the camper cabins, along with all the other amenities that you'll find at Mardon Resort at mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. We start off our news this week with wolves. What is it about these creatures that fascinates us so much? I don't know if it's the strong emotions these animals pull out of us or not, but love them, hate them, or just respect them as the top-tier predator they are, we can't stop talking about them. This week, we've got 2 wolf stories to share with you from the Northwest. The first comes out of Oregon, where the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife reports OR7, the famous wandering wolf who loped all the way across the state from northeastern Oregon into California, has apparently found a mate near the Oregon-California border. If the 2 successfully breed, well, they're going to probably introduce wolves into a new part of the Northwest that has never seen any more than 1, or apparently now 2, of these animals in recent history. Meanwhile, in Yellowstone National Park, we learn from the outdoor press room that in this wolf sanctuary that is safe from human hunters, the number 1 cause of death for wolves is other wolves. Researchers poured over 13 years of data to come to that conclusion, which might be surprising to some people like me who would have thought bears would have been their number 1 nemesis. However, Dan McNulty with Utah State University says, at the end of the day, the success of a wolf from an evolutionary perspective is based on how many pups it leaves behind. If they're packed close together, they have the opportunity to raid each other and kill pups and eliminate the competition. I'll tell you what, Mother Nature isn't always nice, and Mother Nature does operate in interesting ways, doesn't she? Next, we head to Washington's Olympic Peninsula to get an update from Barbara Maines with Olympic National Park about what's happening on the Elwha River since that dam was breached there. Our thanks goes out to Jason Baker with our affiliate 1470 KELA in Centralia and Chehalis for conducting this interview and sending it our way to share with you.
Thanks, John. I recently had a chance to speak with Olympic National Park Public Information Officer Barb Maines. For the past couple of years, there's been a big project up the Elwha River. What progress has been made since the project kicked off with the removal of the 2 dams?
You're right. It has been a very big project that we're getting ready, actually, to be winding down here. In September of 2011, we began removing 2 dams on the Elwha River. They were both hydroelectric dams that were built in the early 1900s to provide power for the growing community of Port Angeles. Over time, and with massive upgrades in electricity production, by the late 1990s, there was a decision made that really, in order to bring the dams up to economic viability and to protect the ecosystem and repair the ecosystem that had been damaged by the dams, that really it made better sense to remove the two dams. That was a business decision on the part of the dam owners, and that paved the way towards actually removing both dams and restoring the ecosystem and the fish. In September, we began removing these two dams, and by March 2012, just a little over 6 months later, the lower of the two dams, the older and shorter of the two dams, was completely gone. That was the Elwha Dam.
Barb, just how big is the watershed?
The Elwha is actually the largest watershed within the park, and it originates pretty much right in the center of the park in the Olympic Mountains. The river itself is 45 miles long, and all but the very lowest 5 miles were blocked once that first dam was put in. And the park begins at about River Mile 8. So all the rest of those 45 miles, so close to 40 miles of river, are within the park.
It seems like it's a very exciting project. What has it been like for people seeing the changes to the watershed?
Yes, absolutely. It's been really, there's lots of words for it, but among them it's fun. It's just been fun to see how interested people are in this project. We have some of the areas are of course off limits because they're ongoing construction sites, but areas where people can go, for example, the lower of those two reservoirs, Lake Aldwell, has become a very popular place for people to walk out and look at this lake bed that is dry now and has a free-flowing river going downstream. That the Lake Aldwell, was popular for boating, and it's fun and it's interesting and it's encouraging to see how popular that area is now, that people can walk out on the old lake bed. So that's been something really interesting to see. And of course, upstream, actually within Olympic National Park, there's quite a bit of excitement. And last year when salmon were, actually both of the last 2 years, when salmon came back up into the river, for people to be able to go out to the Elwha River within Olympic National Park and for the first time in 100 years see Chinook salmon swimming upstream in the Elwha, that was tremendously exciting.
Barb, what's left of the upper part of the project?
And now we are in the very last few stages of removing the upper dam. That's the Glines Canyon Dam that was 210 feet tall. Removing it was a little bit more of a deconstruction challenge, just given its location and the sheer size of it. But it's almost gone, and we are hoping to have fish returning when they come back this fall.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX McKenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your McKenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Weimar stores. BX McKenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
Psst, yeah, you, the guide, outfitter, or outdoors business owner who's listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Have you ever thought of becoming a sponsor of our show? We've got local sponsor opportunities at all 50 of the stations that carry Northwestern Outdoors every week, and we've got some network opportunities too. If the outdoors is your business, we can help you with your advertising needs. Contact me, John Cruz, through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. That's northwesternoutdoors.com, helping you get the word out about your outdoors company.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio, and instead of the upcoming events you normally hear during this part of the show, we thought it'd be appropriate, given Memorial Day, that we instead visit a little bit more with Eileen Martinez with the National Park Service, who's coming to us from Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. We're back at Pearl Harbor as part of this Memorial Day weekend edition of Northwestern Outdoors Radio. And again, we're talking to Eileen Martinez. She's a Chief Interpretive Ranger here at the World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument. We talked earlier about visiting the USS Arizona, but there's more to visit. Eileen, let's go ahead and break down some of the places you can visit. You mentioned the Missouri, and you're going to take a shuttle there from here once you buy your tickets. What do you actually get to do on the battleship where the surrender documents were signed?
Well, there's a variety of tours that you can purchase there, and one of them is a self-guided tour. You can actually have a very detailed tour of 2 or 3 hours where you explore the entire ship. And the Missouri, of course, she was in service until the 80s, so she has quite a long legacy of history to explore there.
There's also the USS Oklahoma and the USS Utah, 2 lesser-known battleships that were also sunk here on December 7th, 1941. And I understand, well, they're monuments unto themselves. What can visitors find if they go there?
Well, the Oklahoma Memorial is actually right next to the Missouri battleship. The Missouri battleship was not here on December 7th. The Oklahoma was moored right about where the Missouri is. So her monument is right next door. When you go to the Missouri, you exit the bus and you actually just walk right over to the Oklahoma. It's right next to the Missouri, free of charge. But she is, that's an amazing memorial. There's 429 marble standards that represent the sailors, Marines, and officers that were killed on the Oklahoma. And then in front of those standards is a black marble wall and when you stand across from the Oklahoma, it looks like sailors forever manning the rails. And there are some beautiful quotes, and it's another incredible monument to visit here at Pearl Harbor. The Utah, that is it's a little bit more challenging to visit. You need to have base access. Currently, it is on base, and the only way to see it is if you are a current member of the military or retired.
Let's talk about one that's much easier to visit, and that's the USS Bowfin. I'm actually looking at it right now. Old school World War II submarine, but you know what? Our submariners had a lot to do with us winning the battle in the Pacific, didn't they?
Absolutely. The USS Bowfin, her nickname was the Pearl Harbor Avenger. So she was commissioned. She was brought into service December 7th, 1942. Highly decorated submarine, and she's in impeccable condition. She has a museum associated with her. You can walk through the galley. You can walk through the entire ship and really get a feel for just the incredible heroism of those submariners. I mean, to go down in that confined space and to be down underwater for sometimes months at a time, they have my highest respect.
Claustrophobics need not apply. And one last thing, the story of aviation in the Pacific. I mean, people always picture P-40 Tomahawks and Japanese Zeros, and those are there. But there's a lot more than that, isn't there?
There is. They actually have an exhibit on the Niihau incident. Many people don't realize there was a Zero that crashed on the island of Niihau, and there was an encounter there with the people that lived there. You can learn about that. There are incredible floor graphics. There's a B-17. That's an incredible sight to see. They also have a hangar where they're restoring World War II aircraft, actually all the way up until today. So you can take the general tour with the museum and gallery, but if you're really into aircraft, this is definitely a must-see.
So it sounds like if you're pressed on time, the one thing you definitely want to do is visit the Arizona Memorial. You should probably set aside a good 3 hours from start to finish at a bare minimum to do that. But if you want to see it all, it sounds like you really need to plan on at least 1 and maybe 2 full days.
There is a passport that will allow you to visit for 2 days, so I highly recommend it. One thing that people do is they might come here for the day and then the next day come back and then head up to the North Shore for the afternoon.
Sounds fantastic. Eileen, we've got to go, but before we do, let's go ahead and give out that website again one more time so people can find out more and start planning a visit to the World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument.
And that is nps.gov/VALR.
That's nps.gov/VALR, nps.gov/VALR, to visit the World War II Valor and the Pacific National Monument. It includes the USS Arizona, the Missouri, and as you heard, so much more. Eileen, thanks again for taking the time to tell us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John. It was a pleasure.
That's all for this week. We'd like to finish off our broadcast by thanking all of those who have served and to the family members who have given so much of themselves to support these soldiers, sailors, and airmen too. Memorial Day weekend is a lot of fun for many and a great time to camp, grill, and have fun outside, but it's also a weekend to reflect on the sacrifices made for us by an increasingly small number of our populace. So, again, for those of you who served, thank you for your service. For you family members, thank you for your support. And if you get a chance, go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. If you missed part of this broadcast about Pearl Harbor, you can hear the show in its entirety all weekend long. Don't forget to follow us and like us on Facebook too at Northwestern Outdoors Radio, where we're always posting information that we just can't jam into our hour-long show. We'll leave you today with music from the HBO series The Pacific. That was a great show about Marines who fought through the Second World War in the Pacific Theater. Seems awfully appropriate, not only for what we talked about with Eileen Martinez today, but also for this Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy it and remember. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.